Well, hello and welcome to Thursday's edition of Evening Jesus. All week we've been joined by my good friend and marriage and family therapist, Stephanie Zimmerman. And I've just been asking her questions about how the pandemic and our stay-at-home orders in particular are creating new challenges for our marriages. And one of the things I was thinking about was how these stay-at-home orders are doing one of two things, I think, for people, depending on sort of where you fall in the introvert, extrovert sort of spectrum. It's either creating sensory overload or a sense of sensory deprivation. And that creates its own unique challenges and conflicts for a couple. I don't know, can you speak into that for a moment?
Absolutely. So as we talked about, like this could be a 2-hour conversation because there's so much to it. So we're going to try to summarize it very quickly and give you some good take-homes. But one thing to keep in mind is that we are all on the sensory spectrum. We all have sensory systems. And so those systems, you can either be overloaded or you can need excess sensory input. And so this also, not to complicate it, but to complicate it, gets altered when our stress levels change. So you may, on a normal day, be able to tolerate the kids yelling a little bit. But when you have extra stress, that sensory ability to cope is going to decrease. And so now we are all in a stressful state, and our systems are going to be altered, so to speak. So one thing that I would want everybody to keep in mind is, what is your sensory system? Are you more on the I'm overloaded or am I deprived? And so what kind of sensory needs do I have? And so one thing to keep in mind if you're on the overload system is we need to find ways to give calm to your body. And our sensory systems are like kind of like a back door into automatically calming your system down. So we know that our proprioception and our vestibular and our oral systems are our automatic calming systems. And real quick to kind of go over those, vestibular is like your swing or your upside down system. Like, do you like to move in different directions? And your proprioceptive system is your how much pressure do you like on your body and how much space do you like to have? And then oral is, do you like to chew on things? Do you like spicy, sour, all that kind of stuff? So if we know that already and you're on the overload system, try putting on some noise canceling headphones that can provide some really good both pressure, proprioception, and noise canceling. Maybe you need to get some of the special sunglasses if you're at work on your screen all day long, and you need to get one of the special sunglasses that can provide a little bit of a help with your eyes with that sensitivity. Maybe you need to go into a dark room for 20 minutes before you rejoin your group, your family, after a day's work, just to have some quiet, some calm, and some darkness. So whatever that system might be for you, just consider that and what that could be. Again, some people really like the body pressure. And so, you might be the one that wants all your kids to jump on top of you to provide that body pressure. You might be the one that just needs a tight squeeze from your spouse. But just to be really aware of what your body needs and to offer that to your body throughout the day so that you're constantly taking your stress system and lowering it with good sensory input rather than letting your stress system build, and then you explode, right? So it's called good sensory diet. And you can Google all these things. There's such great information out there. And then again, if you're on you're feeling deprived right now, you're the one who needs more contact and needs more noise and needs more input. And so how can you also meet that need? Maybe needing to go and listen to some music, maybe needing to go and get some big squeezes and wrestle time with your kids, or however that might be. And then taking into account, like, what are all of our family? Where are they all at on this spectrum? And how can we accommodate everybody's different needs? Because oftentimes families feel like their needs are very competing. But it is possible, especially if you are aware of your system, where you are on that system. And if you're giving your body that good sensory diet throughout the day, it is very possible to work with families' competing needs so that you're not just rising too high and exploding.
That's a lot. Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, and is this something, would you say, is this something you need to take on as an individual, or is it, again, we're communicating with my spouse, this is where I'm at, this is what I need, and as the partner, how much responsibility does the partner have, you think, maybe to sort of respond to, is it just, let me help you, remind you, lean into it? Like, I mean, how does that work, I guess, practically?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say it's both, right?
Yeah.
So we need to be aware of our spouses and what their needs might be. So if I know my spouse is more introverted or is more on that sensory overload system, then I'm going to be more aware that I need to be aware of noise levels. I need to help with, if they are at work all day, that they're going to need some rebound time, so to speak, before they come back and join. So yeah, being aware and sensitive to that. But ultimately, I can't do that work for my spouse. My spouse has to be aware of that and do that for themselves. And so oftentimes, people will say, well, I need to change this in my spouse. Like, our marriage is struggling, and so this in my spouse needs to change. And I would encourage you guys to reverse engineer that, and what do I need to change within me in order to change this environment in my spouse? And so maybe it's, I need to take into account what my sensory needs are so that I can tolerate more the stress levels of my family. Or I need to create more boundaries to say, I need to remove myself right now because the stress levels are too high. You're not wanting to deal with that yourself. And so I need to remove myself for a little bit so that I can come back together.
Now, this might be making this segment a little long, and I apologize. And if you had 30 seconds to speak into this question, what about the guilt that comes from sometimes needing to take care of yourself? So you are removing yourself, or you are doing things that are just for you, but sometimes I think with that comes guilt. Like, I'm not taking care of the other people in my family. I'm just taking care of me. What would you say to 30 seconds?
30 seconds, I would say that is inappropriate guilt. That's guilt that is not an appropriate emotion that's coming up within you. And I would say probably go to therapy to deal with that.
The Zimmerman group in Fresno. No, hey guys, thanks so much for joining us tonight. And we'll see you tomorrow night as we wrap up the conversation.